We have a very beautiful mandate, dear Sid. We are the humanistic knowledge side of United Nations. So that was the ideal, that how can we bring the knowledge of education, a knowledge of sciences, about culture, and now communication, information, and social and human sciences to help build peace in the minds of men and women.
So your connection to water it's in your DNA, so to speak. Hello, my name is Siddharth Chatterjee, the United Nations Resident Coordinator in China, and welcome to Delivering as One, a UN in China conversation. In this podcast, we highlight the heads of UN agencies in China who shape our diversity, discover their motivations, and find out about their work here on the ground. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Shahbaz Khan, the Director of the UNESCO Beijing office and representative to China, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Japan, Mongolia, and the Republic of Korea. Professor Khan, an Australian national, joined the United Nations in China in 2021. Shahbaz, welcome to Delivering as One.
Thank you very much, dear Sid. It's an honor to be part of this podcast series, and thank you for inviting to talk to you today.
So let's jump straight in. Tell us about your early life, education, and work, and something about your growing up, your studies, and your early career. What was it like?
Thank you. This is a very important question in the journey of my life. I am a Pakistani by birth, and I was born in a place called Jhelum, which is a very important place in the subcontinent. It's basically a river which passes through. It's called River Jhelum. It links India and Pakistan, and also very important for the lifeline of Pakistan, the agriculture and irrigation. So it always fascinated me, living in Jhelum, growing up in Jhelum, and that's where I started my life, linking with the environment locally. My parents come from agriculture families. So my mother especially from farmers in the Punjab of Pakistan. So with a love for land and love for water and love for food. My father was a policeman. So very interesting person also. So for me to learn about management of people and with his responsibilities, and from a mother's side, learning about food and culture of Pakistan. I used to love during my holidays to my grandparents' farm, and then play with water, play with buffalo, riding a buffalo, going into a canal with the buffalo. So that's where I started. And then I studied in Pakistan, became an engineer, civil engineer, and especially specializing in the area of water. And based on what I did for my academic records, I was given a scholarship to go and study. So I chose UK, Birmingham. That's where I did a master degree and a PhD in the area of water management, especially in computer modeling. So my love for water from Jhelum took me all the way to Birmingham in the UK. And then my career has been as a water engineer, structural engineer, and that's where I learned many things. And from there, then of course, my interest in understanding UN grew up. But I didn't join UN right after my studies. I went to Australia from there. And again in Canberra and in rural New South Wales, where there are similar things to Pakistan, and very importantly, irrigation there. So I was working in the area of water management in the Murray-Darling, working with the farmers, playing with the water, understanding how can I turn water into wine. So that was an important task I had. And then I started linking with the UN programs, especially in the area of water and climate and use of models. And I linked with UNESCO in Paris. The catchment I was working in, Murrumbidgee in Australia, it was chosen by UNESCO as a world reference catchment. So that was my introduction to the bigger UN system, and I started working within, first of all, as an expert, and then leading to become the Chief of Water and Sustainable Development in Paris. Then from there on, from Paris, I went into again into Asia Pacific, became regional director for Asia Pacific for science and different curves of my career. Yes.
How fascinating. So your connection to water it's in your DNA, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. How interesting, Shahbaz. So tell us about your career in the UN in China. How did you eventually come to work with the United Nations in China?
China has been a country very interesting for me when I was a child. So, like now, I am 56 years. And when I was very young, at the age of 5, as I entered into primary school, so we used to have many interesting songs about China. And Chinese people coming to Pakistan and singing Pakistan's songs, Jive Jive Pakistan. So that was very interesting. And knowing Chairman Mao and Chu Enlai and leaders in China, so that grew my interest and I would say the love for China, that one day I would love to visit China. So I didn't get an opportunity until in year 1999. I was invited to come to China by the Wuhan University, which I recently visited, by the way. And I was working in Australia on the rice-based irrigation systems. One of the challenges facing the world at that time and even now is how can we grow more food with less water? So we had a very interesting project on how can we grow more rice with less water. So I was working at that time with the Australian government as a research director in Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization. So I became friend with the professors and scientists from China and then with many other universities, including in Beijing. So that really started my career professionally in China before UN. So I was working for the CGIAR system, IMI and IRI and CSRO. So that continued for almost 20 years. And that led to Chinese government recognizing my work, like with the Great Wall Award in Beijing and the Friendship Award for China. That all has been in the area of water and linking with wetlands. So as I was in Jakarta, I continued my association. Also in Paris, I continued my association with scientists, especially water people, professors and others. So when I completed my standard duration for director in Jakarta, I had a number of options to go to. And I requested I would like to come to China as the director for UNESCO was moving to another position from Beijing. So it was by choice, very exciting to coming to China and thinking about all the friendships I have, all the things I know and all the things I still want to know. So that was my move last year. And it was during the COVID time, so it made it a little bit more difficult than usual. But I have never regretted a moment why I chose to come to China, and especially now working with you, said we share many things. How China can contribute to the world, linking with our programs, not just in China, but also UNESCO programs in Africa, UNESCO programs in Asia, and linking with Chinese stakeholders, both public and private. So it is a very rewarding move, and also especially the colleagues I work with, very capable people, young people, capable people with degrees from the best universities in the world. And in my view, in China, you can do a lot more. But of course, going to Paris, Paris to Jakarta, Jakarta to China, it has been a wonderful UN journey, and working with you now on many of the issues with Africa and with South-South cooperation.
Fantastic. How fascinating. And the fact that you came here in 1999, you've also seen firsthand how the transformation of this country has really happened. Pretty dramatic.
Yeah, I recently visited. Last week I was in Wuhan, and we went to have a dinner together. The Chinese people are very hospitable, and we went to some restaurants, and I remember the back doors from the Wuhan University at that time. There used to be very nice and very cheap food and beer. So the scientists from IMI, IRI, and myself with others We used to go there, and we really loved Chinese beer. It was very cheap for a yuan or a couple of yuans. You can get a big bottle. That's the time I.
This is 99.
99. So one yuan or something. Then every year you go, there is a big change. There is a new building. There is something new which is happening. So in these 23, 24 years, of course, many of the colleagues I work with, they are also very old. And their children have gone to the universities, and many of them are with jobs. And many of my students here, like I have one student who did his master degree, PhD degree, postdoc with me. Now he's a professor. He became a UNESCO chair last week.
Oh, fantastic.
So that was fun. But overall, I've seen the universities grow. So when we used to come here, of course, the hospitality was very high. So I was joking to my friends from Wuhan. So as we went to the hostel in the hotel in Wuhan University, so we were given big bottles of hot water. I didn't know what to do with it. Then they told me, you put some green tea and then you can drink that. It's good for you. But now really the hotels are so high class. Also, the buildings are so tall. It's a completely different China. And the issues of urbanization, issues related to water management. There is a very big lake there in Wuhan. The kind of research which is going on. So, like this time, when I went there, I went to the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Institute for Hydrobiology. The kind of work they can do, the number of scientists they have, is amazing. Right? They're working on the Yangtze River dolphin, and it's in danger of from the point of view of biodiversity. So we saw some really excellent aquariums there. So from a science and technology point of view, the level of investment is much higher by the Chinese government at any time. Also, very importantly, the cities have grown. The architecture has changed a lot. And at the same time, I see a big difference in the lives of people. The salaries of professors are much higher than what they used to be. And to my very good, pleasant surprise, they can earn as much as you can earn in Australia or US. And many people have come back from other countries, and many people would not like to leave. So this is a big change. And I would also see now, at that time, when I came in 1999, we were bringing a lot of knowledge from Australian Centre for International Agriculture Research Project with IMI and IRI. But now the capacity of the universities in China is so high, the knowledge can flow the other way. So from here, we can help countries in Africa, help countries in Asia. So it has been a tremendous progress in these 24 years on education, on science and technology, on standards of living, on the salaries of learned people, and also very importantly, the improvement in environment and the knowledge and the number of research publications which are being contributed from universities like Wuhan or the Chinese Academy of Sciences is amazing.
Indeed, quite remarkable. So, what does your organization do to support the people of China, the country's priorities, and the UN family at large?
We have a very beautiful mandate, dear Sid. We are the humanistic knowledge side of United Nations. So that was the ideal, that how can we bring the knowledge of education, a knowledge of sciences, about culture, and now communication, information, and social and human sciences, to help build peace in the minds of men and women, and how can we help with sustainable development. So China has been a very strong supporter of UNESCO in China and around the world. It's now the largest contributor by funding to UNESCO. So we have many programs in Africa funded by Chinese government as well as by the private institutions. So what we are doing specifically in China, so in the area of education, Sustainable Development Goal number 4 is understanding its targets with the Ministry of Education. We have been working on how can we go to the next level. Like right now, China is contributing with UNESCO to Transforming Education Summit with the leadership of the Minister of Education in China. through regional processes, and eventually in September with the meeting being organized by our Secretary General. So very high level, and China is helping other nations in the process. Also, very importantly, in education, there are areas which are coming up as bigger areas where UNESCO is helping, especially with the youth, with the unemployment issues. How do we bring technical and vocational education? So we have a number of UniVoc centers which we are supporting from UNESCO to help build highest levels of education in China. We are also helping schools, communities of learning. We are bringing several areas from UNESCO to, first of all, to build the standards at a very high level, and China's contribution there. And also, very importantly, we are then training the trainers through our specialized programs. In the area of higher education, we also have UNESCO centers here. For example, in the Beijing Normal University, we have a center which is working on rural education. So, of course, it's helping the rural education in China, but also in the world. In Shenzhen, with the Southern University of Science and Technology, we have a center which is looking into the latest ICT technologies and smart schools, and how this can be brought to several countries like Pakistan, like Myanmar, like in Mongolia and in Africa. So that's the changing, evolving work in the area of education. We have also several UNESCO chairs. For example, there is a UNESCO chair in the Hong Kong University, where we are this week we are looking into futures of education. And we are also translating many of this knowledge to Chinese language. I gave a lecture this week to the Normal University in Changsha about how China can cope with the globalization and what are the trends internationally. So China has done a lot of progress, but also understanding what is happening in the world. So the concepts like education for sustainable development, concepts like global citizenship education, TVET education, and how we link with the SDGs. So this is the kind of work. China doesn't need us to look into the primary infrastructure, but how do we bring the knowledge to the next level, the quality of education. So that's one area. The other most exciting area is culture. In culture, UNESCO has been working very closely with China on the World Heritage Site. It's an amazing country with more than 5,000 years of history, and that is across all the cluster countries we have, with Japan, with Korea, South Korea, as well as with DPRK and Mongolia. But China's culture and its heritage has been a big highlight for UNESCO. So this year we are celebrating 50 years of World Heritage Convention. So with 56 World Heritage sites in China, only one less than Italy. Hopefully next year it may be even more. So we are celebrating the World Heritage Day every year here in China. There is a National Heritage Day, but also we're looking into the best practices from the point of view of conservation, how other countries can learn, for example, from this Summer Palace, how they can learn from Changbaishan. We are working on iconic species like panda, like in Wulong, which is one of UNESCO's heritage sites. So that's one area, but also we are working on living heritage. We are helping local communities through creative arts and like the areas like ceramics, for example, the areas like music and dances and special foods. So that's another area which is where UNESCO is very active, where we have a number of elements, more than 40 from China listed on UNESCO's intangible heritage. So culture is a very big area where China is making a lot of progress, but China is, as you know, is the largest developing country. So with the rural revitalization, with the 14th five-year plan, the role of UNESCO to take China's culture to the next level. Also in the area of culture, China is taking leadership around the world. We had the 44th extended session of the World Heritage Committee last year in Fuzhou, in Fujian province, which has been a big highlight for China. Then in the area of sciences, which is very close to my own expertise as well, Chinese Academy of Sciences is working very closely with the UNESCO. We have several institutes of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Like today, I had a meeting with the Institute for Automation. We are working on new cutting edge areas like the ethics of artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence can be used for peace and sustainable development. We have a special center of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, which is helping with the big data. It's called HIST, which is looking into heritage related data, not only in China, but other parts of the world as well. With the Institute of Water and Hydraulic Research, we have a center working on sediments. Very big issue for many rivers around the world. Like Yellow River here is a river of sediments. That's why they call it Yellow River. Indus River in Pakistan, or Brahmaputra transboundary rivers, or Nile in Africa. So those are the big areas where IWHR is working together with the UNESCO on integrated management of the catchments. In the area of biodiversity, last year was a very special year where we had the Convention of Parties on Biodiversity with the Kunming Declaration with President Xi Jinping taking leadership on ecological civilization and setting up national standards and national parks. So UNESCO is helping with biosphere reserves. There are 34 biosphere reserves in China. Some of them are the most innovative biosphere reserves, looking into critical issues of biodiversity. So we are helping standardize conservation of biodiversity. We are helping build the capacity of local people. Also, we are producing special publications which can be used for the management of the biosphere reserves. Also, in the areas of science and technology, we have a number of UNESCO chairs, like in Sun Yat-sen University. We have a chair which is linking science policy with the world. So there are many, many interesting things happening. This year, I'm very excited to let you know that we have established a new UNESCO chair on big data and geosciences at the Geosciences University in Beijing. And we also have success in setting up the other UNESCO chair on water in Wuhan. So in sciences, so many things to do. China has so much to offer and is offering. In the areas of communication and information, we are also linking with the marginalized groups, as you know. Especially how can we bring persons with disabilities? As you know, UNESCO provides the leadership to the thematic group on disabilities within UNCT. And this is very exciting work. How do we link persons with disabilities with more access to heritage? So quite a lot of those areas are already being progressed, and our working group is one of the largest, both internal and external. And it's very satisfying work. We can bring cross-cutting elements of education, social and human sciences, working together with the whole of UN to look into critical issues from legal aspects as well as from capacity building aspects. In the areas of social and human sciences, we are working very closely on the ethics of science and technology and ethics of artificial intelligence. Youth is a big area for China. And in the area of youth, we have partnership with many cities, like with Nanjing and Changsha. With Nanjing, we do a peace forum every year. With Changsha, we are working on youth creativity every year. And also within the UN family, we are contributing to the issues related to gender, comprehensive sexuality education, where we are taking a lead on how we bring CSC to the level of the schools with the UN AIDS as well as UNFPA. So it's really very interesting work, an interesting time with UN SDCF, which, as you know, we are very active contributors and working together, bringing our strengths. China is a place there is a lot more which can be done together and achieve very good results.
Excellent. And perhaps I would like to take this opportunity to commend you for leadership you're providing to the thematic group on disabilities, because often, this is one area that remains in the periphery of our programming consciousness, so to speak. So, thank you for that, Shahbaz. So, and some insight, perhaps it just leads from that point of leaving no one behind. Who are the key beneficiaries of UNESCO's programming in China?
I think Chinese society as a whole, first of all, China being the largest developing country in the world, China to go to the next level of development, I have a very strong belief that the next level of development after China has overcome the abject poverty, China has overcome the needs for basic education, is to improve the standards of living for everyone, and especially getting rid of the social inequalities. So, in this area, UNESCO's work is helping through creative industries, the people from the rural areas, through tourism, through the areas related to heritage, and also I'm sure good times are coming. There will be many more people coming to China, so making China more known to the world and more connected. So that's one area I would say Chinese society as a whole is getting a better appreciation. We also have a very interesting initiative. It's called Creative Cities in China. So cities which are specializing in different areas. Like for example, Wuhan is a city of design, and we are working on innovative design there. So China has important aspects now to take to the next level. So within the UN thematic group, we are focusing on 85 million people, 85 million persons with disabilities. It's a very large number. It's 4 times the size of Australia, by the way. So it's a very big number. And these are very brilliant people who have special talents, but they have so many barriers in their life. So we are working on strengthening the legislation as a whole, UN as UNESCO, on how can we have a barrier-free environment, how can we have more of a better life for those people with the disabilities. So that is an area which is benefiting from UNESCO's work on inclusive cities. And so this is something we did in Indonesia as well. So we are aspiring that within this particular thematic area, we can do a lot more. Also, beneficiaries are Chinese universities. They have a big desire to be global and to be international. And with the geopolitics of the world, there is a lot of negativity about China in these higher education and science and technology and other areas. So working together with China on the cutting edge areas like artificial intelligence, the areas related to automation, areas related to water management, areas related to biodiversity. So I think we are also a window for China for South-South cooperation through network of universities around the world. Like I have now started a new program which is about carbon peaking and carbon neutrality. It builds on our 15 years partnership for the rural people, for them to have better opportunities through culture. How can now we go to the next step for carbon peaking carbon neutrality using UNESCO biosphere reserves? So with this kind of work, while the beneficiaries are in China, especially now we will be focusing on the Hainan province, which is a very important area for China's future development. But at the same time, we are helping the Tsinghua University. Tsinghua University has a new alliance of 15 global universities working in the area of climate change. So we are providing leadership on education for sustainable development, which is a very big program across the world from UNESCO. We have a roadmap for 2030. So we bring along the higher learning centers from excellent universities like Tsinghua and their link with the other universities, and how then we look for solutions together. Solutions for big issues like climate change, which is also a very big issue for China. China is so diverse geographically, demographically, as well as in terms of the socioeconomic conditions. So that's where those beneficiaries from higher education and from science and technology. We are working with the Alliance of National Science Organizations, ANSO, and we are one of the founding members of ANSO. ANSO has a very important role to play to bring more South-South cooperation in the area of science and technology for the sustainable development goals. Areas such as biotechnologies, areas which are linking towards better material sciences, and also many engineering areas. For example, with the cost, which is very important, Chinese economy for science and technology. So there are many of those beneficiaries as well. So I see UNESCO's work is more and more adding value to what China is doing with its initiatives like Belt and Road Initiative, like GDI. So we can now bring Chinese knowledge to the world, But also at the same time, we can engage with Chinese leadership and Chinese cities to bring a better understanding of what should be the global standards. We have more than 1700 cities in China which can benefit from our thematic groups work on inclusive cities and how can we make cities more accessible. As you know, we worked with Paralympics last year. That's also very important. So sports and youth is a major area for UNESCO. Also for young people around the world, for them to understand China and what Chinese have done in terms of shared prosperity and people-to-people exchanges. We have 53 offices of UNESCO around the world, and of course, our headquarters and our institutes and our centers. We are able to link Chinese efforts with youth in those countries. We have a very beautiful initiative on Silk Roads. Of course, Silk Road is a very special term used in China. Silk Road also, by the way, is a UNESCO World Heritage as well. The Great Wall is a World Heritage. So with this kind of initiatives, we are able to attract young people from around the world to link with critical issues which China is also very passionate about for helping the world. For example, ecological civilization. What ecological civilization really means, how we bring environment and culture together, how do we look for more sustainability together. So those kind of areas are like key thematic areas for us with young people. Also very important area of peace, how we promote multilateralism and peace with the young people understand those issues. What does it mean for China and what does it mean for the world? So creating intercultural dialogue, I see this is a very critical role for us, and that's where the role of China and role of UNESCO to be a catalytic with China and China's leadership to help around the world. So there are so many interesting things happening, and there are so many beneficiaries in China and outside China.
Fantastic. And I saw how you also linked up with the Special Olympics in the United States and to put the spotlight also on people with intellectual disabilities. I think, the fact that there is a concerted push, not just in China, but across the world by the United Nations to look at disabilities as a real issue is very important. Right. So let's move on to the next part, which is key strategic priorities. So can you identify some of the remaining development challenges faced by China in the coming years and how your organization as part of the United Nations in China will help China in achievement of all the SDGs?
China, as we discussed it in my 23 years plus coming to China, I've seen it's like a very steep upward curve of development. So China has developed too fast, and this too fast development does not come without a cost. So there are issues, for example, with the environment, issues which are related to disasters, and they're natural disasters, and they're accelerating disasters because of climate change. So this is one area where UNESCO and UN as a whole, we can work together to help China with this important area. And how can we bring more psychosocial support following disasters, unfortunate tragedies? We are observing a lot more floods, a lot more droughts. Also, the issues related to earthquakes, they will become more and more complicated, and the level of development and the kind of standards we need to set there. Also, with COVID and with the global issues of slowdown of economies around the world, there is a big challenge in all areas, areas related to education, for example. How can we continue learning to the highest levels? And China has coped very well during COVID situation, but how do we bring the benefits of equal education standards everywhere in China from the point of view of quality of education, and also technical and vocational education to be at the standard which is the standard in Sweden or Germany or other top places in the world. So China has a number of technical vocational institutes. For example, I recently visited the Guizhou province in Guiyang. They have 15 polytechnics, top class, bigger than universities, each one of them. So our challenge now is how these technical vocational education institutions achieve the standard same as Swedish technologies, or what is the best in the world. So those kind of challenges, as the one of the biggest developing country, still remains in the area of culture. Not every site can become a World Heritage Site, but there is so much to learn. Like this week, we had a very important meeting where FAO took the lead in the Georgian province with the globally important agriculture sites, very interesting sites. They have a lot of resemblance with World Heritage, but there are a lot which we can bring together, FAO and UNESCO, on these important old agriculture irrigation systems to make them best practice, to make them attractive for tourists, both from China and around the world, and also look into how can we bring more UNESCO and the greater UN to rural revitalization. So that's also a very big issue. I think one of the other big issues I see is the aging society, and for the reasons and for the policies which have been like one child policy in the past, and now the different social attitudes towards family. And family has always been very important in the history of China. So how do we continue to take care of the people above 60, and especially majority of them being women? So how can we bring the benefits of technology? For example, during these COVID restrictions, older people may not be able to access banks so easily, may not be able to do many things we take for granted in our day to day with the codes and whatnot. This is an area where I think still more needs to be done for those people who may not be at the same technical digital literacy level. Also, the gaps and inequalities between different provinces and rural areas are becoming bigger and bigger. For example, if we compare other provinces with provinces like the Gansu province, where we have now a new project funded by World Bank and UNESCO working together, how do we bring the benefits of development to those far cities and they achieve the higher standards as well? Urbanization is a big challenge. The cities have become even bigger and bigger and more in terms of their footprints. The ecological management of those cities, how UN can help. Of course, China is not looking for the very basic level of information, but the standards of living point of view, and looking into greener societies, and linking interlinkages between the urban spaces, the learning spaces, the rural spaces. And this can be an area where we can also bring in the inclusivity, and persons with disability being able to also benefit from these areas. China has a very good will to do all of this. So those challenges still remain. And lastly, I think as a student of China and Chinese civilization, China is a misunderstood country by most nations in the world. Chinese culture and history need to be very carefully understood. And this is an area where China needs to put more effort. And of course, with CCG, for example, we are doing many such things. But this is an area where communication about Chinese civilization, about China's progress, and China's excellent intentions for shared prosperity, people to people exchanges. That's an area China needs to work more, and this will help create peace around the world. So, those are some of the priorities I see where we can have a role from UN and especially from UNESCO.
Excellent. So let's move on to something else. Tell us what an average day in your life looks like when you wake up in the morning.
Um, I live by myself, so I have to take care of my own footprint every day. So I wake up quite early, around 5, and by that time there are many emails from my headquarters. So there is a big time difference between Paris and Beijing. So some of those issues may need some urgent attention, and I would like to be. When I come to office, I should be able to devote my time to other issues. So I try to deal with some of those issues. Also, I will look into some of the news around the world, what's going on, and then I will get into the mode of preparing my own breakfast with something simple but nutritious enough, and washing the dishes at the same time, getting ready and thinking, and pressing my clothes and getting my tie in order and thinking about whom I'm going to meet and get my mind ready to be able to cope with some of the related areas which I need to. Then, of course, coming to office in the morning, which can vary between 8 to 9:30, depending on different activities we have. Then I have very active engagement with colleagues in my office. We are growing, by the way. We have a number of new initiatives and projects. We are maybe one of the fastest growing in the UN because our space is not enough. We are looking for more space. So, working with the leaders of different areas. So, in UNESCO, we have leaders for each one of our program areas. We have very regular meetings of our management team. Also, we maintain very active link with the young people, and I like to have regular meetings also with our interns. So that's like our internal management. Also, receiving guests from different higher learning institutions. Like today, I had one of the top professors working on artificial intelligence who came to talk to me about ethics of artificial intelligence and ethical use of artificial intelligence. So, to challenge my mind and his mind, and then look into our collaboration, also looking into our contractual side, agreement side. Also, like today, thinking about meeting you and about this podcast. So, this is very typical of the day. So, things continue throughout the day. Also, linking with other field offices in UNESCO, linking with our headquarters. We have a very active system of linking with our UNESCO chairs and centers in our 5 cluster countries. Also, talking to the communication lady, asking her how is our WeChat going. I make a point, I go through every chat post to do basic quality assurance. So we do many things. Sometimes on purpose, I have to challenge some colleagues on their reporting on it is part of our compliance issues. But also, I have many requests for videos every day. So this morning, when I have a good suit and tie, first thing I will do, I did a video. I record myself. I did it myself. So I'm very efficient, very quick. I have my own teleprompter for that. So the colleagues will give me some pointers. I will then use that text, put it into telepointer, and make the speech fit within those 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 7 minutes. It has to be perfect. I will make sure that I'm well prepared with the background. And so I'm also my own crewman and editor for the video. So first thing I did today was to prepare a video for the Hong Kong University on a very important topic. We have a UNESCO chair there on the futures of education. So where should we put our focus? And I like to make my speeches inspirational. I look very knowledgeable because of the help of all the colleagues. So, and leave them with some message. So that's how the days. I don't go out for lunch normally unless I have to meet with some very important guests because I am quite with the minimum of the requirements. I normally just take some fruit at my desk. Day continues. Chinese tea keeps on coming, and I have many interesting things to explore. Also, we are very active in many days, linking with new partners, attending conferences, making them excited about UN's work. Like tomorrow, we will have the thematic group on the disabilities. Also, a camera crew will be doing my day in life. So, all those things.
Very good. Excellent. So, Shahbaz, you've been in the UN system for a while and you've worked in different countries and seen how the UN reforms is taking place. What is your impression of the delivering as one ethos that the Secretary General is trying to, promote, and what does that mean to you?
It's a very important part of our transformation. Each one of us may be approaching the same stakeholder from different angles, and we may be trying to do things from different angles without understanding how can we deliver much better together. So that's really very important for us to understand who is doing what are the needs, and what we can deliver. with the some of the individuals being better than the individuals themselves. So it's a very big area, but unfortunately misunderstood by most of us because we have limited resources. We have competition as well. So how do we make competition into collaboration? So that's really important. For me, it's a very important area. I'm a strong believer of delivering as one, and to have a resident coordinator as our one leader, UNSTCF as our one strategic program, delivering together. So that's what I think is delivering as one, and bringing what is best from each part of the UN to be able to deliver to our member states. China needs all of us in different capacities. So that's what delivering. But it's very strongly also about the attitude of individuals. And attitude of individuals mean like what is the value for my time and my organization's time into delivering as one, and what are the benefits for the whole society because we are working together, and the benefits to the mission of my own entity as well as the whole of UN. So there are interesting areas which continue to be debated and understood. But working together is delivering as one, I think, the most important thing which has happened in UN.
Great. And finally, what is your perspective of an ideal UN resident coordinator?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. So it's so an ideal resident coordinator should be the one who should be able to bring everyone together, who should be able to get over these difficult areas of limited resources, limited staff, fragmented mandate, and to be able to bring the strength of the UN to the nation and especially to China. What do we really offer? Why should we exist in the country so complex as China? So it's like a very critical and very difficult job. So the resident coordinator must be looking smart and intelligent, people's person who should understand the political aspects of the job for the whole UN, who should be able to foresee where the risks for the UN are, where the opportunities for the UN are in terms of serving the nation we are serving, and very importantly, should be able to provide leadership for us to foresee which we cannot see individually. So I think that's a very important role, and none of the UN entities can do it by themselves. Areas where we have never been before. So also maybe the RC should be a leader in identifying the funding opportunities for the UN. Resource is a big constraint for everyone. RC should also, in my view, look into the well-being of the individuals in the organizations, in the entities we are, to be able for our individual colleagues right up to the interns to be able to see we have a leader, or we can look forward to if there are critical issues. Like for example, sexual harassment is a big challenge for the UN as a whole, but having the RC being a leader where being visible and approachable, any member of the team should also be able to approach the RC, not feeling any kind of threat from their head of agency or and the constraints which may be there. Also, equal opportunity employment rights for both genders. So RC has a lot to do with the social side of things, and RC should also continue to organize social functions with good drinks and nice shows as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Shahbaz. Thank you very much for sharing your story and sharing your time with us today. If you would like to learn more, visit china.un.org or follow the UN in China on our Twitter feed. Join us next time for another installment of Delivering as One, a UN in China conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Sid. It has been very interesting and enjoyable talking to you.
Thank you, Shahbaz.